Can you imagine being so overwhelmed, so frustrated, so inconvenienced by love that you completely give up on it? And I'm not just talking about the romantic, emotional type of love. I'm thinking about those actions that demonstrate a genuine care and concern for all of humanity. That type of love. Can you imagine? I can. And unfortunately, it's quite uncharacteristic of me to not be the loving friend. Survey any of my friends and they all say the same thing. Jessica exudes love. But being the loving friend has its own set of drawbacks. It means you empathize with other people's problems and struggles and consider them in your own actions. It means you constantly think about your impact on the world. It's exhausting. So, as a young 20-year-old, I gave up on love. I was sick of being the loving friend and felt like heartbreak was too common. I felt like I was really nervous right now. I'm sorry, y'all. And this is being filmed. Okay, all right. So let's be honest with who we are and be transparent that people are not perfect. That was a great speech. So I'm going to love myself right now and talk about the transformative power of love. In my early 20s, I gave up on love, right? I was sick of being the loving friend, and it seemed like heartbreak was my best friend. My genuine loving nature was waning. I was less tolerant to my friends and family, less caring at work, and held myself to overall lower standards. As you can imagine, this was a pretty difficult time for me in my life. I was diminishing the power of love and struggling to see its relevance at all. It was during this time of struggle that I was most unhappy. And I decided that I needed to reclaim love in my life. I sought it out. I fixated on it. I grappled with what it meant to love, and I noticed that my entire life had been a testament to it. From a mother's love that sacrificed to sustain me, to the desire for true romantic love that inspired me, to a deep love of community which grounded me, to the quest for self-love which motivated me. Love was present in every corner of my life, if I only intentionally sought it out. I therefore proclaimed that it was my responsibility to exude as much love into the world as humanly possible. And I don't just mean holding love in my relationships and friendships. I'm talking about my actions each day. How many of you have forgiven someone who's not worthy of forgiveness? Have considered an opinion that you completely disagree with? That's love. But I get it, right? Love is not everyone's jam. In fact, when I mentioned it, half of y'all rolled your eyes at me. We've got a serious issue with love. And why wouldn't we? We live during a time when common leadership rhetoric is hate, when disparity is the norm, and when romantic love is confined to a microscreen. Love, as a philosophy, an approach, is too difficult to prioritize right now. But what if love was transformative? What if love was the answer to all of our social problems? I once asked a renowned researcher whose work centers on dismantling systemic oppression where love and critique intersect. They almost laughed me off, stating that their work was grounded in love, of course, but that the discourse, the deliverables of their work were not love. It seemed that love was too sentimental a construct to have weight. But if love doesn't have magnitude, how then, in 1955, When Mammy Till insisted to keep the casket of Emmett open, did her love for her son galvanize the emerging civil rights movement? Love has magnitude. Mammy harnessed the power of love with intention. She wanted the world to share in her pain and created change. Love has intention. Okay, if you're struggling to conceptualize the power of love or the purpose of love as anything beyond romantic love, I want you to take Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's definition of love. Love as justice. Love that corrects anything that stands in the way of love. That love heals. Love corrects. That love restores. Dr. King asserts that love is restorative. And ironically, I know this to be true from my own love story. You see, like any queer person, I fell in love quickly. I loved my wife early on in my relationship, and I willingly inherited her anxieties about her future. I was celebrating proudly her accomplishments. I decided that our destinies would become inextricably connected. But my wife, at this time in our relationship, it was too early for her to choose love. She had been heartbroken and was unwilling to fall in love again. It was only through time and my genuine displays of love and affection that she decided she would be open to the potential of our love. Eventually, she chose love, and she too became restored. Now, I talk about our love as a choice, not to discredit the natural chemical reaction that is a component of it, but because too often we disempower ourselves and our power of choice in love. We talk about it as a passive act, something that just happens to us. We just fall into it. But in order to recognize the power of love, we need to recognize the power of our choice to love. Love is a choice. How many of you have chosen to love? How many of you have exercised your power and chosen not to? To recognize the power of love is to recognize one's own agency of choice. Love is work, right? It's not something that we can passively engage in. It requires effort. It requires action. Love is the intention to extend oneself to enhance the well-being of another. We cannot passively accept love. It requires work. Love is action. Take Sojourner Truth, a Black woman born into slavery whose freedom, intellect, and physical body were constantly subjected to attack. However, her activism spans beyond the various movements she was involved in. It spans beyond abolition, beyond women's suffrage, beyond evangelism, into contemporary issues of criminal justice reform. Sojourner was the truth, y'all. How'd she do it? It was love. A deep love of self, which she proudly proclaims in her famous speech, "Ain't I a Woman?" and a deep love of others, which is inherent in her vastly public and active life. Sojourner reigned the power of love with action. And I realize that concepts of power and love seem contradictory, as power is so often associated with dominance and subordination. But imagine them together. Now that could change the world. But I realize we're not there yet, right? We're not ready to hold love in the forefront of our actions. It was Bell Hooks who says that the transformative power of love is not fully embraced in society because we often wrongly believe that torment and anguish are our natural condition. Well, I implore you to reclaim love, because love is transformative power in action. And while I'm still grappling with my own definition of love and how it presents itself in my life, here's what I know. Love is intention, followed by action and driven by choice. It's not just some emotional mystique, it is justice. And if we're gonna create a change in the world, it needs to start with love. Leave today grappling with your own definition of love and choosing to extend as much love into the world as humanly possible. Because love can't wait another day. We've got to reclaim our power through it.